maybe you have a relationship coming up because
No, I don't.
it seems like you're asking a lot of questions.
We should have a
From what I hear, you two are closer than what
I'm not close to anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
Not either.
I'm a million miles away.
I told you what to do Sunday with that. That guy, little heart you had. You blew your chance. He gave it to you, Cody. He was supposed to give it
You
to
didn't blow his
somebody else.
chance. You knew what he was doing.
It's the little heart
Took a shot.
made at the Sunday school
You
class.
should have gave it to somebody and said, "Hey, give this to somebody."
No, there's nobody.
I'm gonna go on and
There's
mess.
nobody. There's nobody at the church. There's nothing wrong against nobody at the church.
It's not at
But
the
there's
church.
nobody at the church tonight. Not tonight.
I'm not talking to
He's
you.
judging.
I respect everybody there, but there's nobody that I'm pursuing.
They're all crazy.
They're great people. Just
They're great people. They are great people.
Was that the start?
That was.
oh no.
Yes, that's so.
Can't take it back.
Nobody from church hear this.
There it is. Jared's unavailable.
I am.
So what was your question here?
Oh, just standards when it comes to dating and stuff. I personally believe it comes down to what they believe and principles between them and the Lord as they go through that stage of in the dating relationship on what they should do or what they shouldn't, not being sinful, like things that aren't sinful. I'm talking about putting up sort of say walls or stuff so it doesn't become a stumbling block in a sense in the dating relationship. Because I can say, for instance, some people think it's wrong to hold hands when they're dating. Others think that there's nothing wrong with it. Others think that you shouldn't kiss when you're
I
dating.
was gonna say kissing's probably a big one.
Personally, for me, I don't want to kiss my girlfriend until at least we're engaged. Just something I hold on to. More because I want to have that personal aspect more towards somebody that I actually really want to be my wife. And hopefully it'll be her.
So what are you asking?
Yeah, I know.
What are the boundaries that you should have, or
Or is it good to have?
what's good, what's not good? Is it good? Yeah.
So let's go around and say each
What
so
our
what
personal
you
opinion
and
is?
Elora did or what each other's
I have
in a sense.
no idea.
Because it could be different.
Till-
So for me and Cody, it's a completely different.
Right. Oh, he hasn't dated since he's been a
Yes,
believer.
But what his views on stuff are probably different than
Yeah.
mine when it comes to dating. Not that they're wrong.
Here's a question off of that, though. I know we can go back, circle around. So, could you date somebody that didn't have the same standards that you wanted? Or would you just call it off right away? Or would you be willing to work with them?
If they're so the question is, are they willing? Yeah, it's a group.
Are you
It's a
willing
group
to work with
willing.
them? Or are you just gonna cut it off right away?
No, I would. Depending on what it is, it's not like I'm just gonna cut the person off. If it's, I feel like it's a group, like together, working together.
Yeah.
If you have something that you don't want to do, I feel like the other person will respect that.
Respect.
And in a sense, same as you respecting somebody that doesn't have the same as you.
I do admit, I think your standards are a little too high sometimes.
It could be.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Who was it? My sister and brother-in-law kissed only when they got engaged. My dad and mom kissed, I believe, only when they got married.
First time.
When they got
Horrible,
married.
right in front of everyone.
Yeah. Nowadays, people do, yeah. When I think about that, I was like, I don't want our first kiss in front of everybody. Yeah, that'd be awkward. A lot of
people.
Yeah, it would be awkward.
I would think that would be awkward.
I mean, I get
For sure.
the, I don't know, the symbol of it.
I guess
maybe.
it can be kind of, yeah.
The sentimental value
Yeah,
of that moment.
at that moment.
Laura and I, we kissed before we were engaged. But again, we're the only two for her that we've ever been with. So it kind of like, I don't regret that.
Yeah.
Because, like, what's your definition of kiss? Even, like, pecs no-go?
For me, no. Not until I'm engaged, at least.
What's that verse? Like, reach everybody at church with a...
I was about to say, I come from an Italian family, like, yeah.
No, I'm saying to the mouth. Like, kissing on the cheek is different. Because Lieutenant's kiss on the cheek.
Oh, I know.
And Huck's
That's what I'm trying to
"Huck."
figure out. It's like,
so much.
You guys are so innocent. I love it.
me?
No, this guy.
But
So like a forehead kiss, you're not like against.
no.
Okay. We're getting somewhere.
We're getting
Breaking
somewhere.
your walls down.
No. I mean, I don't know.
No, Jared, it's good. It's good to have.
Yeah,
It's good to have your standards, but
Not that.
yeah, it's good to have them in this.
honestly, I mean, I could have him, but like
Yeah.
some of the things I just doesn't make sense in my own head.
I'll be impressed if you go all the way to marriage without kissing your girlfriend or your fiance.
Well, I guess that's the question. How many people have you dated?
One.
I've only dated one.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And you can, I think just dating that one person, I learned really quickly what it was like. Nope. And yeah, I'm okay with that.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
comfortable with that. And no, I'm not comfortable
Yeah,
with
you
that.
definitely learn.
It happens pretty quick.
But
yeah, I think you learn that pretty quick. I don't know if there's
Did you
a
have-
fundamental rule.
Too strict a standard, you think? That is almost detrimental?
I think so.
yeah, I would say too extreme. Because you don't want to be like that completely weird, almost just friends in an aspect. Yeah, you're not.
See, that's
You're really struggling right now.
Your standards is that's how I see your standard. That's why I say like I respect.
Oh, no.
His form of dating is friendship to you.
Yes,
Okay.
Okay. I don't. Yeah.
So you're saying intimacy is part of dating.
I not fully, but I think there has to be some at some point.
My thoughts on it is it comes down to I'm pursuing this person and I don't know the future, like down the road I could be dating somebody else's wife
Oh, I know. Yeah.
and I don't want to in any way or form be intimate in a situation where I don't know, be in the way of that. So the intimacy level, I try to keep it, I don't know.
That's honorable.
No, that's on him. Yeah. Because obviously, I've been down roads before, so like maybe that's why I'm almost not in the same view as him.
Well, there's also like,
And honestly, I wish where I sit now, I wish I probably never went down that road. So I give you guys all the credit. You just
no, I was gonna say like, it's also how often should you actually be alone enough to be able to slip into temptation? So I think that's for me is like,
Yep.
if I'm constantly alone with her, if she's in my bedroom, it's like it's danger zones that are more the problem, not actually my behavior. So like,
I agree.
if I'm kissing someone in my bedroom in my bed, that's likely going to lead to sex. Whereas if we're out in public and we're in the view of people, like that instantly puts a guard on you to protect you from doing something stupid. So that's why I think what you're talking about, intimacy is aloneness. And so if I'm constantly alone with her, then yeah, I can see I can slip in temptation. But kissing her in public, like, she's my girlfriend. Holding her hand out in public, she's my girlfriend. And it also shows other guys, this is my girlfriend, not my friend.
Exactly.
I think
That's where I'm.
from like a legalistic point of view of Christians, they would say that if you're that comfortable in public,
What are you doing in
what are you doing? Yeah,
I don't care what people think of me.
yeah.
Yeah.
It comes down to people just like judging the others in the sense of how different
What was your
they
mom's?
principles
Yeah,
are.
rule of thumb.
Did you guys talk about that when you finally asked her out?
Well, this conversation literally affected today. So
Where's this going?
Cindy this morning.
I was intimate earlier this morning.
So Cindy this morning went out with a girl that I was really interested in when we were younger.
That's a positive. We can say her name.
But because there was nothing inappropriate between us, Cindy, my wife today,
It's not awkward.
is able to go and spend the day with her. And we're friends as couples. And it would have been that would not have been possible if Cindy had any type of a relationship like we're talking about with him when we were younger, or me with her. Because we, in a sense, he was interested in my wife. I was interested in his wife. It's kind of weird. And we married opposites. And now we go out on dates together. And we, go more on motorcycle rides and
they invite your kids to go to
Yes.
to visit the lake house vacations.
Yeah.
Never rent that
Yep.
out. Yeah.
But it would never have been possible. It would have just, it would have ruined it if I had ever really, for me personally, if I'd ever kissed her. There's none of that in our minds. We can talk freely about it now, and it doesn't disrupt our friendship today. But it would have, I believe. And so I know this. I was more like Jared. I kissed Cindy for the first time the night we were engaged. And because at that point, I knew we had made a commitment to each other. And it was awkward for me. And I remember saying to her, I guess I'm supposed to kiss you now. And she said,
I
yes.
love this.
And she said, yes, you are.
No doubt, dude.
That's right.
You sound like a babbling fool right now.
Yeah. And so for Cindy, it was different from her perspective. And she respected my standards. And yeah. So I can tell you this, I have no regrets. I can look back and have no regrets. I have no female that I can't, that I'm wondering in my mind, ooh, I'm an elder in this church, and if they see my post, what are they going to remember from my youth? And is that going to come back to haunt me? I don't have to worry about those things.
No. Here's a question. When you start dating, when does that topic come up? First date?
No, I don't think.
When you know it's
I don't
serious?
even. Yeah, I don't even think that we didn't physically even touch each other. I think the first, I don't even know honestly for how long. That just wasn't really the priority. You know, the priority was getting to know one another, spend time together. Obviously, we had been in school together, but we still didn't really know each other to the extent that, you know, I think we wanted to know each other to find out, is this going to be a marriage that we can work? You know, because everyone is putting their best foot forward all the time out in public, and this is what they're seeing. But what is she really like? What am I really like with our families? And then I think how we treat our parents is really important. I think personally, I think how we remember being alerted to that, like how I treat my mother is potentially indicative of how I may treat my future wife someday. So I wanted to be very careful how I treated my mom, and to realize that I don't have romantic relationships for my mom. How do I treat her? So if someday I should not have romantic relationship feelings towards my wife at a particular time, okay, this is more reality of how am I going to treat her? So trying to put myself in real situations ahead of time. And then, but I can tell you that I would have been definitely more innocent that way, but I do not regret it at all. It's too bad Cindy weren't here to be able to give her perspective. Yeah, I think that for me is huge. So I can see any of my former classmates and not have any shame, you know. And I think for me, that was very, very important. I didn't necessarily appreciate it at the time like I do now.
So less is best. I think it's kind of what you're saying is, it's just like, you know.
Well, I can say that
Better
we were engaged for 8 months.
Yeah.
So we went from my first kiss in 8 months to doing it in 8 months. So
Gotcha.
it moved pretty quickly, you know.
Gotcha.
But again, I knew that was, for me, that's the track that God had us on.
Here's another question. Dating and marriage is two different things, right? So certain things shouldn't be talked about in dating compared to when you're married? Or should it all be put out in the open because you're on the aspect you're going to get married?
Yeah. When we were engaged, I think at that point we're talking real life. When we were engaged, we began to discuss, you know, we were preparing, you know, to spend our lives together. We had made that commitment by the engagement. I had asked her parents, I had asked my parents, I had asked her parents, had permission, asked her.
Permission or blessing?
Permission,
actually. And so for me personally, dating, I would not be. I would
But you did
hold my cards to my chest, quite honestly.
But wouldn't you want to show those cards sometimes before you were engaged? Why would you wait until you were engaged?
Personally, I would be watching how
How do you
my
know that it's
potential
gonna actually
wife,
work out?
how she treats her mom and dad and her sister.
Because like, just say
I would be watching those things.
No, but I mean like the discussions about like children or how you're going to handle finances.
Yeah.
Yeah. How?
So
Did you wait until engagement?
it's
so
not just talking about that stuff.
yeah, we get to a point where I wasn't really sure. So I went to pick her up. We were coming back, and it was one night we were driving a 4-hour trip, and that's where I began asking Mom. I began asking City questions, and as she was sharing and answering back, that's when I knew she's the one. It just got to a point where she's it.
Okay, so you already.
It was during that. I think during the dating process where we were near engagement, I wanted to get clarity in my own mind and hear it directly from her.
Yeah.
So I was asking her questions, and then we began the process of looking for a ring and everything. And I asked her dad. Yeah, and then my folks were included. I included my folks in the search for a ring, which now I'm really glad that I did, and I'm really glad that I asked her dad. I don't remember exactly. I don't think her mom necessarily was there. I think I asked her dad, and just her dad. But now I think that really it really honored my parents that a son would want to get their input. And then I think it meant a lot to her dad ultimately. And I think it does. If you have daughters, I think that says a lot. So
I'm curious to think of what Alora's dad thought that I brought him to lunch. I wonder if he like cared. Yeah, I don't know. Because he's like right after he's like, oh, we should go back and ask Yvette. So he wanted to include Yvette too, but I wonder what Greg actually thought.
So I think it's important for us to always be thinking about our potential spouse's perspective, and then her parents' perspective, your parents' perspective, and your siblings maybe. Just that always considering others in our living out our Christian experience. And so, I'm sorry, that's why I really am thrilled today that Cindy was able to go out with her friend. And I don't, those feelings I had when I was young, aren't the same. It's like, I'm glad that I married Mom. There's no question about that. And I many times as husbands, we've said how blessed we are from the Lord to have the wives that we have. We have both said that to each other, and we are.
Can I ask you just like a quick question of clarity? So your engagement was 8 months.
Yeah.
How much was your actual dating period?
We knew each other, knew of each other. I think it was fourth grade. We were in high school 9th to 12th together, but we never dated.
Okay.
Until our senior year. It was our senior year when I actually took a step to reach out to her, and she can tell you the story, her side of the story better. But the day that I did, my mom and I went to a flower shop and got flowers. I brought them to her house, and that night she was going to go on a date with someone else.
Oh.
And oh my goodness.
Oh.
And so I did, and unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that part. So she's, of course, now in tears and all that because she was interested in me, but she was kind of going with his default.
She wanted you. You didn't make a move, so she was going on a date with somebody else.
But I'll let her
drag your feet back.
So God worked that out just in the nick of time.
And so
See, God still works it out.
That's right, exactly.
that was
flowers.
a year. It was about a year of dating, or was it
Probably.
like a year?
Yeah, because when we graduated, she went off to college, I went off to college, two separate ones, and we had to handwrite, snail mail. So we wrote snail mail while we were going. But so, granted, we had been to high school together. We kind of had that sense of each other
The friendship first.
because of that. But, and I think, I know a lot of people, everyone's story is different. I like the idea, excuse me, of knowing each other from a young age because you really know each other a little bit better. I think of Kent and Alora, you guys kind of knew each other for a while there a little bit.
14, like that.
And there's something to be said for that where you have a chance to have known them over a period of time or seen them or watched them or observed them. even though for most of those years I wasn't even, interested in reaching out.
Yeah.
I would notice her, but I had no chance.
Gotcha.
So is that why you didn't reach out, or was there just?
No, I felt I was too young. I couldn't really pursue supporting a wife and a family and a home, and I didn't have time for a job. So to me, it was premature. So I just avoided.
So you didn't date because you weren't set up in your mind for marriage.
That's right. Yeah. No sense in getting too close to anybody because you can't go anywhere with it anyway.
Yeah, I didn't date in high school for that. Same. I was like, we're too young for it.
Yeah.
My family rules on you can only date until 18.
Oh yeah, so then you had rules.
So I mean, I kind of went with it too because it's like, I don't know. Still at home, we don't have money.
Yeah.
I felt it was beneficial for me. I felt like.
Do you feel like this answered your question?
A lot, yeah.
Yeah.
That was good.
Okay. So you wanted to end at the end of last episode. You said you want.
Oh no.
Something else to, and we have one we got to talk about from episode 2 where you were on about church membership.
Oh yes.
Off camera,
no.
we started talking before you left. I was like, save it for next.
Church membership is a long one,
So we can
wait on that one.
we can end
we
on
got
that one.
3 episodes.
So you can whatever you're gonna end the last episode on, we can do that now.
So
And
right
let's
now, you want
start.
to talk about membership?
No.
And this one with membership.
Yeah, so
So
what-
start with the last one you were.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you brought up arranged marriages, and then you brought up polygamy and divorce. So you have one of the most active things in modern Christianity. We go, polygamy is wrong. But pretty early on in the Bible, polygamy was extremely active.
Yeah.
And so there's this whole conversation about people have a tendency to put God in a box. And I believe that God makes rules and that those rules are important. But I think he also understands the fundamental nature of humans. And so there's moments, because we were talking about divorce and that verse that came up of Moses allowing it. Polygamy was one of those. And so there's this Bible verse that says, I believe it was David, when David sinned. And God was like, I would have given you many more wives. So God was saying, I am the one that has provided you multiple wives. And yeah,
I don't remember that.
I'm going to look
If you
it
can
up.
find it.
Let's
that'd be
find it.
helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, so it's similar to what I said before last episode was, okay, so is it a sin to marry an unbelieving woman?
Right.
Or is it a sin to have multiple spouses? Because biblically it happened all the time and it was never seemed to be condemned. Is scripture just stating the matter of fact this is what it was? Jacob had Rachel and Leah. The lady who gave birth to Samuel,
Hannah and Medina.
yep, was also 2.
Okay.
David had many. Solomon obviously had hundreds. Like, is it actually wrong to have multiple spouses, or is it just best practice to have one?
When did that end, though? Is there a given time that ends? Was that like Old Testament?
Is there a time when it started? I don't know. Or just is that's just how it was? I don't know.
So
Yeah.
this is what God says. He says, this is 2 Samuel 12:6. And so this is when Nathan's talking to David about Bathsheba and the sin he committed. He says, you are the man. Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel. I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you out of the hand of Saul. I gave you your master's house and your master's wives into your arms, and gave you the house of Israel and of Judah. And if they were too little, I would have had it added to you as much more. So God's like, I gave you wives, plural, to David. And so I think sometimes when we're like having these conversations, there's things that when we're talking about God's rules, he's the one that makes them. And so when you're talking about that example of, is it sin to marry an unsaved person? I think sometimes we can be like, God would never allow that, but he did with Nathaniel. And so people go to that. Hosea, sorry. People go to that and they're like, see, now I have an option. And I feel the same way about polygamy. So that's one of the reasons why Mormons practice polygamy. Is it Mormons? Yeah, Mormons.
Yeah.
And to me, my belief on that is don't put God in a box because he's dealing with our situations and our stupidity. And so when we're talking about marrying someone unsaved, I think it's like, remember God's intent was a man for one woman. And our job as Christians now is to obey those commands. But it's not that there isn't instances that God can do what he wills, because we're not telling him what to do. We're not taking his rules and saying, hey, God, this is what you have to do. He's giving us rules to live by. So that's kind of how I've decided to look at it when it comes to like, so if a Mormon comes up to me, it's like, polygamy is not wrong. The Bible has instances of it. I go, God allowed it for that moment because God can do what God does. And it's not sin because God is the one that defines sin. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but the Bible also has like murder, but like it doesn't condone.
Doesn't always condone it.
Right.
Yeah. So there's this movement right now where a lot of people are going back into the Old Testament. They're like, I'm going to have many wives. And that's where I was like, I just wanted to add. So it's not really like a new topic, but it was adding to. I think it's easy to go in the Bible and look for examples of even God allowing things, but it's not his intent to say that it's good. He's allowing it for the moment. And David was a specific case for a specific reason. I wouldn't always say
that's a thought-provoking.
I wouldn't always say polygamy is sin because God allowed David to be a polygamist.
Right.
But I would be like, for me, God has called me to one wife in the New Testament. So to me, it would be sin.
Isn't it one flesh though? One woman, one man.
Well, that's the intent.
That was the intent.
So that's
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was saying. That's the intent. Oh, good way to put it. Thoughts before we move on?
Yeah.
Just
Or you good?
Clarify. I think you already know this anyway, but the kings, there seemed to be something where they wanted to preserve the kingly line, and so they would have multiple wives to be able to have so many children to be able to somehow maybe have some offspring that wouldn't have gotten killed, because when they get over, one nation overtook another nation, they would try to kill all the descendants. And
It's essentially the storyline of Game of Thrones. They're just trying to kill off all the children of other kings.
Right. And God, I don't think God ever encouraged that, desired that, commanded that. I think he just understood that was what was going on then. It was stating more as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So when he says that I also gave you your master's house, God gave his master's house. God gave, and your masters as wives, it still was his masters as wives, into your care. And meaning you have control over those wives. And so in a sense, you have power over who used to be your master. And so like when Absalom came in to take over and he went into, I think, one of King David's concubines, I believe, that was a statement of, I'm taking over. Culturally, not necessarily approved by God, obviously, and so when obviously, like we just said, but you get to the New Testament, one of the qualities of Christ-likeness is that a man is the husband of one wife. And so then the question comes up, okay, so then a person who's been divorced, can he ever be an elder or not?
Right.
And so then you get to Corinthians and you say, how could some of them not have been? And then does that mean that every elder has to be married? Because you have to be the husband of one wife, so you must be a husband. And we would I think there are some probably who would take a hard line and maybe would say that yes, you have to be. But I think for the most part, it's understood. The character, the Christ-like character of the heart is displayed like this. If he's married, he's the husband of one wife. He's fully devoted to the wife that he has. And that's what's honoring to the Lord. And so if you're not, that would be a concern. So then if you've been divorced in the past, if it was prior to your salvation, I think that's clarified in 1 Corinthians 7. And obviously you could serve as an elder because now you're devoted to the wife that you currently have now, wholly devoted just to that one. But if you have recently been divorced and all, I think there'll be reason to be careful, to be very careful about that, because I think God is looking for that Christ-likeness that is a matter of character, a matter of how you represent the Lord. And so you're to be an example, a good example. So he seems to be saying being committed singularly to one woman, your wife, is an emblem of Christ-likeness. I think God wants us as the church to be wholly devoted to him, singularly devoted to him. And so he wants our marriages to reflect that as well. But then I was supportive of someone who was divorced before to serve as an elder in the past, because I had observed their character over a period of years, and I saw that they were devoted to their wife singularly, who they were with at that time. But again, that's where the Spirit of God, I think, gives each individual church dynamic, that body of believers, the wisdom to know, is this appropriate for our church body here? And is this person really meeting the qualification or not?
Yeah, and I think everything that you just said, I think that I think it's really easy to go into the Old Testament, and I see a lot of modern Christians doing this because they weren't taught it. So they go back there, like we were talking about, having an unsaved wife or having polygamy or having these things. But just because something happened in the Old Testament for a period of time, we have to look to the New Testament and the commands that Jesus gave us to base what we're supposed to do as Gentiles. And so, like everything you're saying, all of those are the qualifications we're supposed to have. And so whenever I hear someone go to the Old Testament and they say, well, look, there was polygamy. Look, they were married to an unsaved person. I'm like, hold up a second. That was for a time. Look at the context of God. Look at the history of God. Go to the New Testament. What does God tell? And so that's why I brought that up. And yeah, I think everything.
It's like that,
said.
the progressive revelation.
Yeah.
We have that much more revealed to us, so we're held to a higher standard.
Absolutely.
We should know better.
Anything to add before we move on? All right.
Wow, you got stuff to do.
That's a good jumping off point. Let's end there. We're an hour and a half in. So.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys next week.